Okay, so we're going to be talking today about body mechanics, okay, and the importance of you moving correctly while you're doing your activities of daily living. Really, really important. So we're going to watch a video after I do a little talk here, and some of the parts, because of time, we're going to cut off a little bit, but at any other time, maybe Chris can show this again in one session, or there's a website you can see the same videos. Okay. So it says, what is the connection between your safe movement and your osteoporosis? So how many of you here have osteoporosis? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, how many have osteopenia? Okay, 1, 2, 3, that's me too. Okay, all right. So that means brittle bones, okay? Brittle bones that can break if you are not performing whatever you're doing in the proper posture. And so this says here, safe movement plays an essential role in maintaining and improving your bone health. In fact, keeping active is one of the best ways to maintain your bone health. A person who has had an osteoporotic fracture might avoid routine or new activities for fear of breaking a bone. Okay, that's common. Once you find out you have this, I'll say, oh, I'm going to break my bones. So I just step back. However, experts recommend that people with osteoporosis continue to be active and involved in activities at home, at work, and in the community. That's really important. And we'll explain a little bit why. By practicing proper posture and learning the correct way to move, this is what is called body mechanics. It's mechanics. And you can protect your bones while remaining physically active. One of the most important concepts in body mechanics and posture is the alignment. Okay, and I cannot tell you enough to remember the word alignment. That's really the basic thing about moving correctly. You need to align with your spine. This alignment, it refers to the relationship between your head, your shoulders, your trunk, your hips, your knees, and your feet. So keeping that relationship. On this side picture, okay, where it shows you skeleton and the normal curves of your spine, your neck, your thoracic, and your lumbar spine. And it shows the line of gravity, okay, that you need to align with. So when we're doing that posture exercises, you want to think of a line that pulls you up and you're getting as close as you can to your line of gravity. Okay, that's when your muscles are actually, when you're standing still, your trunk muscles are silent. They're relaxed. The only things that are moving are your feet. They're the ones that keep you in balance. If you begin to go off a little bit, your feet begin to act. And you can see that on your exercises, balance exercises that you do. Your feet are moving, right? Your feet are moving. They're trying to get you back into balance, okay? But the rest of your trunk is relaxed. And that's the resting, position you're doing. You want to be preserving those curves. The closer you are, any movement, you want to be preserving those curves as you're moving around and doing all your activities. So if you think of this, my hand being my shoulder muscles, okay? And this little towel is the ligament that attaches to my bone, all right? So every time, and you want to hold this straight, you can do that on your shirt if you want to, so you can feel it. Or, if you want to just kind of hold on there and feel that. And then you're going to start moving your arm up. Let's say you want to move your arm up to pick up something. And so your shoulder muscle is going to start acting and pulling. So the ligament is pulling the bone up, okay? But the connection of the ligament to the bone. Okay. And so what do you notice when you do that? When you're pulling? What do you notice happening to your bone hand?
Tense up.
It tenses up, okay? So every time you're strengthening your muscles, that you're using your muscles, you're strengthening your bones, okay? That connection. So that's really important. If you don't have osteoporosis or osteopenia, it's not as important as you do, because the muscles, the bones are brittle. And if you pull in too hard or too much or not in the right position of your body while you're doing it, you can break those bones. and especially your vertebrae and your spine. That sometimes, when you have osteoporosis, they're kind of porotic, and there's a lot of holes there, and sometimes those little links begin to break a little bit at the time. You don't even know it. It's called, osteoporosis is called a silent disease because you really don't have pain. The pain comes from when you're hurting your ligaments and your muscles in your process of moving not properly. The first thing that I want you to remember is that you need to keep close to whatever you're going to do. So if I'm going to lift this box here, I'm not lifting it from here. You want that to be as close as you can because you want to align yourself with your curves. Okay, you want to keep that curves and you want to align. The distance between your center of mass, which is between your belly button and your back, the distance to whatever you're going to lift is directly proportional to the force that you're going to have to apply to your muscles in order to lift whatever you're going to be doing. So the further it is from you, the stronger the force you're going to have to exert. If you have osteoporotic bones in your spine, it might be too much if you're not bringing this close. You will see that in the video. I just always say, bring it close to you. So you're lifting and you're hugging. You're keeping your elbows. The exercise that we do like this, okay, where you're keeping your elbows, that's how you want to carry things. Wherever you're lifting, you get close to it and you hold it here. Okay?
I can add to that. In engineering class, there's something called momentum.
The momentum.
Okay, or moment of force. So if it's holding 10 pounds, it's easy to do it right here. If you extend your arm and hold that 10 pounds, it's the force times the distance. So the longer this is, the more momentum.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the mechanics of it. It's like a crane, a crane that is lifting something here, and you have the base that is anchored to the ground, is holding that crane from tipping or moving. Your base is your trunk. That's where you want to keep good and strong. You need strong core muscles. Strengthen your core, whichever way you do it. Strengthen your core, and so you'll be able to. If your trunk is not positioned right, you're not going to be able to lift. Your arm is not anchored to what you're doing. So that's important to remember. When you're keeping close. The next thing I want you to remember is this next picture to it. I think it's a pretty good picture that tells you what's going on when you bend down with your knees straight. So you all probably have know that you need to bend your knees when you're going to reach down for anything. That's really important. And the reason why is that your lumbar curve, like it's about like this, this curve here going like this, it can only bend back down about 45 degrees. So if you're standing like this and you want to pick something off the floor like that, if your knees are straight, you're going to be able to only bend from your lumbar spine this far, 45 degrees. So how do you get to what you want to lift? It's down there. So you see it all the time. I saw it today. People doing it. You just, you keep going down with your legs straight, and you're putting all the strain on your ligaments, on your muscles, on your low back, as you see in that picture. It shows you that you can have a pressure. You're pressing on your lungs. You're pressing on your anterior part of your discs, and you're pressing on those things, and then you get down there, and then you lift on muscles and tendons are overstretched, okay? And then you're going to lift, and sometimes picking up a pin, you will say, and then try to straighten. Oh, I can't. You're stuck down there. It can happen just by lifting a pin. When you are at that point where your vertebrae is it's really hanging on to a couple of strings there. So bending your knees, what it does is that it keeps your spine alignment, okay? You're bending your knees to reach. Head is up if you can. You might have to look at what you're doing, but you're coming down like that, and then you're coming back up again. You're lifting with your legs. Lifting. Your back is doing nothing there, except, it's doing something, but most of the lifting is with your legs. So that exercise that we do, down and up, down and up, that's what is going to get your legs muscle, your pushing muscles, strong. And you can challenge yourself to try to go a little further as you get better, a little further down, further down, further down, and back, further down, further down. And it's really important that you use your leg muscles and you don't lift with your back. So none of this, none of that. That's your knowledge. Maybe it's your head, okay?
14 pounds.
It's 10 to 12 pounds, more or less, okay? About 12 pounds is your head.
About volleyball.
So as we get older and our head starts going forward, okay?
Can I circulate it? Is that okay? Here,
And then your head gets heavier and heavier. And if you weigh into this position, your head that weighs 10 pounds here or 12 pounds here is weighing like 42 pounds. It's 42 pounds that your muscles are working to hold your head from falling down. There's a new condition called tech neck syndrome, okay? And this is you see in young people, teenagers that are like this all day long, okay? All day you're walking around, people are using this, how many hours they're on their phone doing this. So what's happening is that the muscles that attach to the first vertebrae are pulling on that bone, and the bone is growing. It's a protuberance, it's growing actually. That's in a bad way showing you the action of the muscles on the bones. Remember I was telling you pull? So in this case, you're there for hours in this position. And then you get pain on your shoulders, everywhere, so you get headaches, it's really, it's syndrome. It's now you can go to the doctor and get treatment for it.
So we're so lucky in Project Healthy Bones, we have the antidotes, because we do posture activities that really help us.
Okay, and the third thing, because we want to watch a little video, this third thing is that you don't lift and twist with your feet planted on the floor. Lifting and twisting is the most common cause of injury to your low back. Okay, so what do? If you are picking up that pot of spaghetti off the stove with hot water, okay, and then you pick it up and you put it on the stove, no, you're lifting and you're twisting at the same time. So you pick it up, hold it, and you walk it. You walk it to the sink, okay? So the idea is that you walk your turns, okay? Pick something up, if you need to put it someplace else here and there, you walk it to it and then you put it down. Okay, that goes for a child that you're lifting, or a pet, a dog that shows in the video. And so those three things are the most important things. Close to you, bend your knees, preserve your curves, and walk your turns. If you remember those things, you're probably going to do a lot better, and you'll be stronger and safer. Okay, so first thing, close to you. Okay, never lift things like you said. Anything here that weighs 10 pounds is going to weigh probably 100 pounds if you lift it from there to here. Okay, so if I'm here and I want to lift that, and I'm here and I don't want to get any closer, I'm in a rush, and pick it up here, you're going to feel that right away in your back. You just really close, and you lift with your knees. Okay, pick it up with your knees, and take it to wherever you want, and put it down with the knees. Yes?
The other thing, Margarita, is that oftentimes we as shoppers tend to load up one bag, figuring it's easier to carry. The way you can avoid that partly by pulling the bag close to your body so it's at the center of your center of gravity and closer to you, so the leverage of that heavy bag isn't so far in front of you, which distorts your body line. Or you can distribute your shopping bags into more than one bag, and so that you're balanced on either side.
Yes.
I have often seen you, Chris, carry everything in one bag, which is really
We don't
gotta
follow
really
her.
for your
We don't follow her.
I'm not picking on you for that. I'm just
Don't do what I
as an
said.
example.
You know why? 'Cause I
But if
think you're
you're
saving
carrying
yourself
something
a
very
trip.
heavy, you should consider distributing that heaviness into two bags so that you're balanced on either side and not walking like this from the weight.
Exactly.
The other thing as women, we tend to carry the kitchen sink in our handbags.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll see us walking like this. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll see one shoulder higher than the other. The higher shoulder is the handbag side. So to get around that, and maybe it's not so appealing, is to wear your bag diagonally.
Yes.
So that again, it's closer to your core.
Or you get two bags.
But if you ever think of it so often, even if it's not comfortable, if you always wear a bag one side, switch off to the other side, but you're better off having a diagonal handbag that goes across your body, so that you don't walk like this.
When you said the two bag with the grocery, you only have one bag. You don't have the second bag. You carry both
Then you
bags.
carry close to your
Like
body.
this.
This is going to be on the video, right? That's one of the things that's going to be on the video. Okay. So that's what I really think that you need to remember. Close to you, okay? Bend your knees, put your knees, lift with your legs, okay? If you have bad knees, you're a little bit in trouble, okay? So you want to either work on your knees, but if they're really bad, then you're just going to have to consider what you're doing is the right thing for you to do, and you might have to modify, things around your house or whatever.
We're here to introduce Sandy to safe lifting techniques as recommended by the National Osteoporosis Foundation. So this would be for general lifting of anything in your house and how you would do it and keep your spine safe from fracture. So most people, especially if they have leg weakness, will lift something like this. They'll round the back and then lift. And you're going to notice that if you're in this position, your ligaments are fully stretched to end range, and you really can't use your muscles to control your spine very well. You get a lot of compression on the front of the spine when that happens. So when you're lifting, if you lift like this, you're really using the ligaments and your discs to give you the stability for the lift. And then they get stretched out over time, and then you end up with disc bulges or muscle strains or ligament sprains. So ideally what we want is to be able to hinge at the hip joints, set the shoulders on the back, get the object as close to us as possible, and then lift. So even lifting this way with the hamper, instead of using the handles that it has, sometimes is actually easier than lifting with the handles. Now, if something's really heavy, you might want to step 1 foot back and 1 foot forward and then come all the way underneath the object and then lift it. But again, someone with low bone density should not be lifting more than about 20 pounds or so. So if the object is a little heavier, if you can do this with good form and alignment, keeping the 3 bones in contact with that imaginary dowel behind your back, get the object close to you, set the shoulders down and back, and then lift. So that requires a lot of leg strength to be able to do that. So then putting it back down, stepping down, coming down, and then really requires a lot of hip mobility too. So sometimes people are not able to do those full lifts from the floor because of lack of hip mobility or lack of leg strength. Techniques for getting groceries out of the trunk. Now we'll be looking at lifting techniques for getting groceries out of the trunk. I'd like to demonstrate the incorrect way to do it, because the way usually people do it is to stand in front of the trunk, they round their back in order to get the groceries out of the trunk. And sometimes they even lean against the trunk, which is not a bad thing, but in order to get the leverage to be able to get the bag out of the trunk, they have to round the back, and then they're loading an 8 to 10 pound weight on their spine, directly on the vertebral bodies, and then lifting an object. So not a great idea if you have low bone density and are at risk for fracture. So what we would certainly prefer is that you hinge at the hips, you set the spine, you lift the object and bring it as close to you as possible, bracing the knees gently against the trunk. Pull the object to you by drawing the shoulder blades down and back, and then stand up. So that would be a much better way, much safer way to pick up groceries out of the trunk.
Kind of my own tips on, on how to do this. So I keep a cane on my trunk. So in case the bags go away in the back there, you know, you're not stretching over to get them. So you can use the cane to try, this is a little trick, okay, to bring that forward. And then also when you're doing this lifting here, you're gonna be putting them there. You're gonna be doing it twisting, right? So that's what you want to avoid. So what I do, I kind of rest it on the edge of the trunk, you know, and just so it gives a little time for me to grab it, bring it close to me, and then, you know, put it to wherever you're going to be putting it. All right, so you're, again, decreasing that extra arm leverage, you know, you want to keep that close to you.
I do that
It's
with
gonna
my
weigh a little
washing
bit.
machine. I take that with the washing machine, and how deep your washing machine
gonna
is.
talk about
I
that.
get a tongue and
Okay.
reach in there.
That's in here too. We have some tips about that. Okay, so now we can go to the next video.
Video 4?
Video 4.
Look at some lifting techniques for carrying things that have handles, such as luggage or heavy grocery bags. So one of the things I usually see people do when they lift something is, I'm going to step in front of you now, is they'll use their arm or their shoulder to do it. And if they're trying to put the piece of luggage, say, up on the security screening area, they'll pick it up, their wrist will cave in here, and the shoulder will lift. And then they round their spine in order to get it up there. So there's a lot of things going wrong with this. So what we want to do, instead of lifting that way, is to, again, hinge at the hip joints, finding the 3 points of contact here, and always making sure the spine is set. But then what is the upper extremity doing? So holding here, setting the shoulder down and back, and then lifting the object. If you can't do it correctly, it's probably too heavy for you to manage, and you could injure your shoulder or worse, injure your spine. So placing the object down by keeping that shoulder down and back, and really thinking of using a strong wrist and the elbow to lift the object. So you're mostly using the bicep to do it. Same thing with a grocery bag. Instead of lifting it like this and then throwing it up on the counter, is that you set the spine, set the shoulder, lift the object, and then place it down.
A dowel, you know, I'm using my shower curtain to line up your back, so it gives you an idea, you know, of how straight you should be. And your back. So anytime you deviate from that, go into that, then you know you want to work your way. If your head is forward like that picture, you're going to have a hard time, but you can work on it. It gives you an idea on how to keep that back. So when you're bending forward, okay, you're bending like this, and you're keeping those 3 points of contact: your head, your dorsal, thoracic, and your lumbar spine in one line. That's the alignment that we talked about that you really need to learn. So that's what she's talking about that, and she uses that stick a lot just to...
Sandy do the technique, so we're going to use the dowel behind the back. And if you could, again, bring your head, mid-back, and sacrum against the dowel. And then you can, once you hinge forward, you can look down at the object, and you're going to brace your knees against the trunk, and then bend at your hip joints, and then reach your hands underneath the bag. Now, before you actually pick it up, if you could set your shoulder blades down and back, exactly, and then stand up. Perfect. And then shoulders down even. And you can get a better grip on the bag as you get it close to you and just brace it against your body. And then do it again, hinging at the hips, placing it down, and back up again. All right, very good. That looks great. Thank you for joining us for lifting techniques for getting groceries out of the trunk, brought to you by the National Osteoporosis Foundation. Let's look at some lifting techniques for carrying things that have handles, such as luggage or heavy grocery bags. So one of the things I usually see people do when they lift something is, I'm going to step in front of you now, is they'll use their arm or their shoulder to do it. And if they're trying to put the piece of luggage, say, up on the security screening area, they'll pick it up, their wrist will cave in here, and the shoulder will lift. And then they round their spine in order to get it up there. So there's a lot of things going wrong with this. So what we want to do, instead of lifting that way, is to, again, hinge at the hip joints, finding the 3 points of contact here, and always making sure the spine is set. But then what is the upper extremity doing? So holding here, setting the shoulder down and back, and then lifting the object. If you can't do it correctly, it's probably too heavy for you to manage, and you could injure your shoulder or worse, injure your spine. So placing the object down by keeping that shoulder down and back and really thinking of using a strong wrist and the elbow to lift the object. So you're mostly using the bicep to do it. Same thing with a grocery bag. Instead of lifting it like this and then throwing it up on the counter, is that you set the spine, set the shoulder, lift the object, and then place it down.
If you not get way down there, you get your dog to jump on the sofa or in the chair. And big enough from there, you know.
Or the dog can jump up on you.
Yeah, right, okay. And also this goes for a child. Is anybody taking care of a grandchild?
Yeah, we're doing.
Getting in and out of the crib? Okay. Okay, that's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if the baby's young, it's baby, then usually the rail is down, right? The first few weeks or so the rail is down. As the baby's growing, parents start lifting that rail up like that. That's when it gets really tough to reach down there. Okay, so I had taken care of my grandkids when they were babies, and I have twins in Minneapolis. And when they were born, their cribs were side to, line in one line, and the two were together. And so one day I walked into the room, and there's the two together. One of the cribs there. The little boy had jumped on his sister's crib, and they're just playing, having a grand time. I said, how did that happen? I didn't realize that when they get to be a little bit older, then I started putting a little box in the crib and have them step up on that box, and then I was able to pick them up. I didn't have to bend all the way down. So that's a little tip, that helped me. And make sure that you take that box out of the crib. So they're not going to get.
Otherwise, they're going to be monkeys.
Yeah, but so you find ways to do things so you're doing it in the
Working
proper
smarter.
alignment. Yes, like that. Okay. So this is about brushing your teeth.
We'll now be looking at recommendations from the National Osteoporosis Foundation for being in the kitchen, washing the dishes, and protecting your spine from fracture, or just managing your back pain if you have any. So the first recommendation I have is to get someone else to do the dishes, or if you just have to do the dishes yourself, then these are some of the recommendations I'm going to give you. So one of the things is to imagine that you're standing in front of a counter with the sink here, and underneath is a cupboard that usually houses cleaning supplies and your dishwashing liquid, things like that. So you can open the doors to the cupboard, and you can put your foot inside the cupboard and lean against the sink. So instead of leaning over the sink like this and washing the dishes for 30 minutes, and it takes a while to do that, right? So you're in this position for long periods of time, you're stretching out your spine, you're compressing the vertebrae in the front of the spine, and also putting yourself at risk for a fracture. So especially with heavy dishes, such as a casserole dish, and you're lifting a casserole dish, that's going to put an excessive load on the spine as well. So let's have you come around, and you're going to stand over here, which is the simulation for the cupboard. You're going to open the door of the cupboard, put your foot inside the cupboard, and just lean against the sink. All right, and then you take your plate that you're washing, and then pick it up and start to wash, and go ahead and pick it up and really make sure that you're keeping that chest lifted. So you're practicing your good posture even as you're washing the dishes, okay?
Hold your back by putting one hand on the sink, okay? And then I put my foot back like that. The golfer position is this, is when the golfers go pick up their balls and they do this. Who's the golfer here? I don't know. Anyway, so what you're doing is that you're unloading your back, and then you're either just putting your foot back. It's enough to keep that back from going like this. So hang on to the sink with one hand and put the foot back. And then, like I have the electric toothbrush, and I do two, I think it's 2 minutes on the top or 2 minutes on the bottom or whatever. So I just change I change sides, then it's the other foot. So you're actually bearing weight on your one leg, which is good, with the other foot back, is keeping this, and then you look in the mirror, okay? And you're leaning forward so your toothpaste is falling into the sink, you know, right now. So you're doing this, you look in the mirror, as you're doing this, you do the other side, like that, okay? So that's one
I've
way.
tried that, and you can immediately feel, as soon as you take one leg and put it behind the other, the load on your back will
Yeah,
much less.
yes, exactly. So that, okay, next.
So video 6.
Some techniques for making the bed and also getting in and out of bed with proper
Really
techniques to
important,
help
this
prevent
one, a lot
spine
of
fractures.
complaints I have of
From the
people
National Osteoporosis Foundation.
hurting their backs and
So most of the time what I see is when people get in and out of bed, or when they're coming to my clinic and I'm showing them how to get in and out of bed or get on and off the table, they'll do this. Swing the legs up and then roll down onto their back. And then when they come up, it's like throwing the arms up and then trying to get up. So what happens with that a lot of times is that people will put an undue amount of force on the spine in order to get up and down that puts the spine at risk for fracture. So what I'd like to do is show you a few techniques to be able to protect the spine from fracture, which also is really great for low back pain if you have a low back pain episode, for getting in and out of bed and actually making the bed safely. So Shandi, please come over and stand in front of the table here. And sit down first. And what you want to do is kind of measure the distance as to where your head would go. So you pretty much want to sit in the middle of the bed and then scoot back all the way into the bed before you actually lay down. Then you go onto your elbow, keeping your spine lengthened, swing your feet up, and then lay down. So you go on your side first. If you try to hurry to get to your back, then that puts you at a compromised position. Then you roll over onto your back. And then you can go into your preferred sleeping position. And recommended sleeping positions are a little bit different for a lot of people. If you have shoulder pain, you might not be able to sleep on your side. If you have back pain, you may not tolerate sleeping on your back. So what you want to do is find the position that supports you the best. If you want to sleep on your side, you don't want to sleep curled up like a fetal position. What I recommend a lot of times is taking a nice pillow, putting it under the neck, laying onto your side if you want to sleep on your side. And then think of lengthening your spine first before you actually go to sleep. And then you could also put a little pillow under your rib cage, right under the rib cage, putting a small pillow there that actually helps you get off of your shoulder. So sometimes that allows people to sleep on their side if they have shoulder pain. But again, the main thing is that you get long in the position and you avoid a fetal curled up position when you go to sleep, because you certainly don't want to be there for 8 hours. It's going to predispose you to forward bending posture. Now, when you get up, same thing. You want to roll to your side first to come up. Swing the legs off the table first, then push yourself up, staying long in the spine, right? And come up to sitting like that. Okay, Sandy, let's go ahead and come around to the back, and we're going to talk about how to make the bed properly. So again, most of the time people will round their back to reach across the bed to pull the covers up. And what we want to do is have you brace your knees against the bed and then hinge at your hips, getting the dowel and placing it against your back, and take the edge of the covers and keep the dowel against the 3 points of contact. Okay, now you got to change your spine first. You're in a rounded position, so come back up. There you go, finding those 3 points of contact. That's it, and then being able to put weight on this hand. Instead of just putting your fingers down, go ahead and put significant amount of weight on that hand, and you'll have a good support for your back. That's it, and then pull the covers up. Exactly. Keep the chest lifted. That's it. And then coming back up to the vertical position. Excellent, that's great. So those were recommendations for making the bed positioning for sleeping, and then getting in and out of bed safely from the National Osteoporosis Foundation.
I did a lot of this body mechanics trainings for the nurses, and the nurses' aides, they spend how much time making beds in and out, and they always complain of back pain, by doing that. So my little tip was for them, and they really liked it, is that as I said, you need to get as close as you can to what you're doing. That's that distance again. So I would put my knee on the bed. Okay, so I put my knee on the bed and I get in that position like that. And then I put my hand on the bed to unload my back, and then I can do this. And it's just so much easier. It takes all the pressure off your back. It's leaning forward. You don't want to do that. So if you have a big bed and you don't want to get all the way around the other side to straighten out the other side, you can do that by putting your knee on the bed and reaching. So you're doing this, right? So in this position, it's actually a comfortable position to do this. You're holding your back straight.
Are we still, want to go to the next video?
Looking at recommendations from the National Osteoporosis Foundation.
It's very similar to brushing your teeth. So she's recommended that you open the sink and put your foot, on the edge there. And you're leaning against the sink while you're doing your dishes. So again, the same principle. You want to get close to what you're doing, all right? And also, I do dishes the same way I do the sink. I put my foot back, one foot back while I'm doing dishes, and switching whenever your leg gets tired. You're bearing weight, which is good, and you're keeping your back straight. So you don't want to do this like this, all right? So you want to do like this. So this is what I saw everybody.
We'll now be talking about sitting.
As you're putting your weights on, okay? A lot of it, they just lean way forward there. Exactly what you're not supposed to do. Just get that leg up, put your shoes on. In bed, if you have, if your shoes are, you're trying to get your shoes down, they're on the floor. So the one way to do it, if you don't have good hip flexions, and you have a hard time getting to your foot, I just lie down on my back and I bring my foot up, my shoe on. I've done that when I'm having, like back pain. So, but otherwise you do this one, okay? So every time here, everybody that was putting their weights on, I was watching some of you were doing just the wrong thing, bending forward, lifting that
Or we
weight.
bring our foot closer to.
Or bring your foot up to the chair, like that.
Or have a friend help you.
Yeah.
Right, have your friend help you.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, you bring close to you. Whatever you're doing, bring it as close to you as you can.
So what we're going to do is, I'll show you first. So this is what usually we do when we're sweeping or vacuuming. And if we're vacuuming, it's bending over like this and rounding your back and using really your back to do the work instead of your legs. When they say lift with your legs, this is what we mean. So you're bending down, you're in sort of a semi-squat position, and you're sweeping like that, right? And you're thinking about generating the energy from your back, not so much from your shoulders, right? So you're shifting your weight and you're gliding side to side. So this makes a wonderful dynamic kind of exercise as you're sweeping or even vacuuming. So here, and then I always recommend that people do it on the other side. It's really weird to vacuum with your non-dominant side, but doing it from the non-dominant side as well. So now try it yourself, and you're gonna go from the side, and then we gotta get the 3 points of contact here, and you're gonna go into a little bit of a squat. Now put weight on both feet first. That's right, and do a little squat. It's gonna be strange. Hinge forward, and then head against the stick. There you go. And then try to do your sweeping with that posture. And then move your hips back and forth. Yeah, so it's good to put on some music, and you can do a little dancing with it. It looks like we're dancing here. And makes it a lot more fun to clean to music. So there you go, that looks great. All right, now let's turn that broom into a vacuum and just think of pressing back and forth. And you're gonna glide again, back and forth. And I love this little hip motion that she has. This is great. And bring your head to the stick as well. So you can practice your posture by tying the stick to your back using a TheraBand or sticking it inside your shirt. And try your vacuuming and sweeping and mopping like that. Now try it with the other hand. It's very odd with the other hand. Now you want to go turn your body to the side this way and put the other foot forward. Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. And then you're going to kind of come across your body like that. And do little lunges as you do it. Now is your head against the stick? There you go, much better. That's it. And so you tilt your body forward just a little bit at the hips. So usually when people are sitting in chairs, what happens is they slump forward and they kind of rest against the chair back, which ideally the chair back is for being able to rest and to relax into a position. However, that's going to put the spine at a compromised position for many different tissues of the spine, such as bone, the ligaments of the spine, the muscles of the spine will tend to get stretched out, and then you'll get discompression. When you sit, you need to have activity in the muscles around the spine that are designed to hold you up all day long in space. These are called type 1 postural muscle fibers, and we want to have them active all day long. So a lot of times what happens is people just don't have the endurance to hold themselves up. And this is what we work on in our exercise programs, is building that postural endurance in all of the activities that they do. So if we could sit all the way back in the chair with the pelvis against the chair back and then lengthen the spine up and let the spine be supported in an optimal alignment, this is what we want for the best position of the spine that's going to help preserve the integrity of the spine and all of the tissues around the spine. When you're tired, you need to change positions and sit up, get up, walk around. You shouldn't really be in any position for more than 20 minutes or so. So just to show some of the problems with the spine in this position is we want those curves of the spine. We want the inward curve in the low back, the outward curve in the mid back, and the inward curve in the neck. This varies with different types of people. So we may have people that have a little bit more flat spines, and we also have people that have a little bit more curve in the spine. When you're in the ideal postural alignment, you have a relaxed low back. And that helps you understand when you're in the right position. If you're hinged forward or rounded forward like this, you're going to have work in those back extensors that are really not designed to be working all day long. So keeping the rib cage right above the pelvis helps keep the balance of the discs and all of the joints of the spine so that you don't compromise any of them. This is what the spine would look like with rounding forward, and this presses on the vertebral bodies and introduces compression and also compresses the front of the disc. So you don't want to do that because your disc material is going to migrate back and then you could have bulging discs in the back. So keeping that sense of length when you're vertical is really helpful all day long to help preserve the integrity of your spine. So we don't want to be hinging forward to put on our shoes and rounding the back, and then especially not maintaining that position all day long. So let's have Sandy come over, and what I'd like you to do is sit all the way back in the chair and sit tall. That looks really good. So if I were to put the dowel behind her back, have you come forward a little bit, then scoot forward even more. There we go. And if she weren't supported, that would be the ideal position for her to be in. You can see that this is a little more challenging for her to get the head back into alignment over the body. So she really has to work through the deep neck flexors and getting a little bit better mobility of that upper thoracic area to help her get there. And in order to get the shoes on, what she would need to do is to do a hip hinge to do it safely. So if you could, again, scoot forward just a little bit and then place the dowel against the 3 points of contact, right? And then hinge forward at your hips, keeping the head against the stick for a moment. Hinge all the way forward until you can actually reach your shoes with your fingers. Good. All right, now keeping the chest lifted. There you go. You're going to have to hinge even more. So this particular movement requires a lot of hip mobility that sometimes people don't have. So coming back up, that's why we put the shoes on a little bit of a prop, because in order for her to get all the way to the floor with her hands, if her shoes were on the floor, there's no way that she could get there without compromising the spine.
The smaller ones are more.
But I think the bottom one should be higher. You know, that's what I mean. The bottom of the scarf should be higher. So then I need to make them higher. I don't know. I mean, let them figure out the mechanics of that. But it is a tough one. Don't make them heavy. That's one thing.
So what, I think everybody, I always like love working with you, Margarita. We so appreciate you.